way now and. Okay. And I believe there's a 6-month timeline on the validity of the appraisal. So I just want to make sure that we keep that ball rolling, moving forward while the appraisal is still a usable document. And that's what we're doing. So with that, at this time, I'd invite Nat to give a few words on behalf of the LAC.
Hi, I'm Nat. I'm chairperson number 2. And moving forward, the LSA plans to have a rotation of people attend beta board meeting to share information as needed. And listen, you can briefly address. I don't remember a lot of the topics in the last meetings. So if someone wants to.
If they're in the board packet.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they want to bring back services along South Airport or ways to educate community about the new technologies, as we just discussed. Thank you. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Moving on down my section of the agenda here, Jerry's here to provide the headquarters facility update. Jerry,
Sure.
welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you've driven by the site, you'll notice there's been quite a bit of change over the last few months. Trees have been cut down where they needed to accommodate the operations center. Mass grading has been done. Homeowners has been in there the last month doing that work. It's gone well. We've got plans for the upcoming next month, quite a few things that include, we're going to start doing the directional bore under Hammond for the new water line. That'll happen the 1st of June. We're going to start next Monday at the east side of the site at Hammond, the extension of the utilities. That'll be about 6 weeks worth of work there. We have secured all necessary permits. That's with the road commission and other public agencies. We're still waiting for the land use permit, but we've been granted what we needed to do out there on the site, the appropriate Garfield Township and other municipalities involved. We're also looking at starting the actual foundation of the operations center in the middle of next month. So you'll start to see concrete work being done. We're anticipating the precast panels to arrive on site roughly around the middle of June, so about a month after we start the foundations. And you're going to probably say to yourself, "My gosh, it's going fast. We already got the building walls up." Well, you'll notice with precast that obviously it does go up fast. What happens after that takes a while. All the inside work, everything that doesn't have that sex appeal associated with it when you first see construction going on. So we're reviewing all the submittals with the appropriate agencies, including the engineering and architectural staff. Crispin is going to start setting up the trailer on site right now. They wanted to wait until all the mass grading was done. We landed a temporary sign at the corner of LaFrame and Indiana. We haven't placed it in the ground. We just put it on crib so that we can move around. Use for the groundbreaking. And I'll give you an update on the budget when we get to that section of the report. But for now, I think you'll notice that we made a lot of headway. I'll answer any questions. Yeah.
I just kind of laugh every time I drive by there that we get criticized for cutting down a few trees at the airport, but we've not heard a word about clearance public. You know.
Good point.
Who can figure people out?
Yeah.
Right? Unpredictable. Thanks, Jerry. Chris, do you have a hiring report to share with us?
Yes, in your packet, I just put the number of staff. We've been, everybody's been working really hard on our recruiting and the retention side of it. So I'm really happy to report. And we've been having a every month now. We were having one, till about a year ago, every other month. Now we're running a class every month, meaning we're getting enough applicants in the door to interview and then hire. So from our February class, we still have 4 drivers that have, stayed with us. Our March class, 4 drivers that are still with us, and our April class started last week, and we have 4 in that. And right now we have 5 drivers scheduled that have already been interviewed, but they couldn't start in April, so they're starting in May. So we have 5 as of last night. And then we have 2 drivers right now that are moving to the area that can start in June and 1 in July. So they're people that already have a CDL and they're just moving their family here. And so we're real happy to get them. So you can see just the FTE that we needed as of when I wrote this about a week ago, 13 FTE. May with the new hires. And it really depends on like when their class starts, when it ends, so that when they can drive. So right now I'm predicting about 9 FTE needed for the in the May, and just predicting ahead for June down to 3. So next week we're getting together and working on the July predictions. So far it's going well. I'm very happy with all the work that all the ops people and HR helped with in getting people in. We had probably had an idea on a CDL curious, she called it, and we just put a thing out there to see if anyone would like to go through some CDL training, really intended to be how to get a CDL, not necessarily a recruiting class for us, but it kind of evolved into one. So we had 5 attend. It was from 4 to 6 a couple Wednesdays ago. We had 5 people attend right at 4 o'clock. So our trainer and one of the dispatchers who was a driver and myself met with 5 people. Of that, one of them has started, and 2 of them are with the Coast Guard, and they can start 1 in June and 1 in July. And one will not be hiring, and the other person is undecided as to when he can start. So we feel it was a good class, and we're doing another one on May 10th. So we're gonna run another class like that, and we just kind of go over like what it takes to get a CDL, how our training runs, and then it kind of ended up evolving into what would it be like working for BATA. And we brought one of our drivers who's now a dispatcher in, and I kind of had presented about 30 minutes, and he came in and kind of repeated what I did, but that was great because he's the front line, and it's one thing for me to say what we can do for drivers, and it's another for a driver to say it. So he gave a really nice presentation, really not orchestrated together, but he's going to come back on the 10th and do another one for us. So I think we're right on track to keep and the good thing about this, even though we still need staff, if we had not had that $10,000 incentive, we would have been reducing more services, and we really since last May haven't had to reduce any of the services. So I'm really thankful for, these, the efforts that everybody's putting into getting their staff to back up. So all our other positions are filled. So like our supervisors, we are at a great strength in our operations team. I think we have a really high bar there, and our technology staff is filled at the present time. Dispatch, we probably be looking to maybe have a lead dispatcher soon. So we've been working on that. So the emphasis continues to be in the drivers area, but so far it's right on where we hoped it would be. And you keep 4 to class each time. And we probably had 5 a couple times, and 1 end up having an injury in another class. 1 had a medical condition, so, but we are retaining at least 4 from each class. Any questions about it?
Yes,
Heather.
congrats on getting your FTE done. And I was wondering how our student mechanics are doing.
Our student
Did
mechanics.
you have a couple from NMC who were?
No, we don't. We ended up, our mechanic supervisor is feeling like we have the amount we need right now.
Okay.
And we did go to NMC and work with them though on whether they have some, and I think they had 2 people, and then one of them got hired somewhere else. So
And we
But
filled
we'll-
the other position.
yeah,
And we filled the other one with the permanent.
yeah, we got a wonderful young man, and to be a permanent one. So
Maybe some revisit in the future.
definitely. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good program to stay in contact with.
They were very receptive to working with us with the intern program.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, and thanks to both you and Eric for putting the CDL Curious event together. I mean, it really was just an idea, and you guys really did a nice job building it into something real and getting interest in it, and it's been successful, so I hope that continues.
And the other one we're working on, Eric's to help in this area too, is we build the economy right now. There could be some people in the last couple of years that have retired that aren't necessarily in financial positions that they thought they might be in. So we're really targeting retirees right now. So you'll be hearing on the radio and all our print media and things, the recruiting of retirees. No, they're not always available 30 or 40 hours a week, but we can work them in, especially if they're available Friday, Saturday, where we can be short drivers. We can build a schedule with our ops team to include them in, and many of our fill-ins are only available 2 days a week, but we can put it into the schedule. So that's our next effort, is in the, alongside the CDL Curious, is the retiree recruiting.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, next I'd like to introduce Adam Bavier. He's the operations manager that oversees our link service and dispatch department. And he's going to provide an update on the changes that are coming to our link services as a result of the new technology that we've been working on. The one that's not technical.
Thanks, Kelly. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I want to update on our partnership with VIA. That is our new technology software that will give us improved service on the link service. You can move to the next slide. So current state, or currently what we have right now on our link, is two different models or two different platforms that don't talk to each other at all. And they do not, it's confusing for our ridership. It's time consuming and hard to manage for our staff. So with your approval to go with VIA, thank you, by the way, we will have a lot better model delivery for the link service. Go to the next slide. This is our current area of operations, and we're going to combine those two into one. You can see our on-demand is in our rural or our urban area, and then the village link, what we call the village link, is in the outbound area, and those will all be when we launch this summer, will be one model that has the same rules and the same parameters. So what it'll look like for our ridership is they'll have the ability to control their transportation either through an app to schedule that ride or by booking with our dispatcher. And then they'll have communication, which we don't necessarily have now with all of our link service. So they'll be able to track their bus on their smartphone and know where that bus is and when it's coming to get them. The payment options will be streamlined, and we'll do a better job with ride sharing with that service and take some of the human error out of what we're currently doing with our scheduling. Next slide. In the board packet, you'll see kind of what the app will look like as they log into the app. It'll walk them through, our passengers walk them through scheduling a ride and how they can do that. They'll have a couple different options to choose from, whether it's if they prefer their pickup time or potentially if they have a drop-off time that they have to meet. Specifically, like if that passenger is going to work or a doctor's appointment, they can highlight that feature and meet those time parameters. Next, and that's really the future of our link service is streamlining it and making it more efficient for our ridership. But happy to answer any questions if there is any.
Have an idea when the app will be available?
Yeah, we're looking for mid to late June right now for launching that service.
The cash is when they get on the bus,
Say that again?
cash transaction is when they get on.
Yep, it's so very similar to today. They'll still have that option for cash. They'll also be able to pay through credit card feature as well.
It just seems like you would have everything, just force it on a credit card, but everybody doesn't have, a debit or credit, right? So
Yeah,
it'd be a lot better than having cash transactions.
absolutely. Yes, sir.
They put cash in, though, let's say they pay $5 and a $5 bill and it's only $3, they don't get cash, there's no cash back. They get a voucher, that's, so that takes away a little bit of that.
Yeah, so our drivers are not handling cash, which is a good thing.
Okay, great, thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Chairperson's report, I have nothing to report. We go into committee reports, finance oversight team. We met, was it last Monday? And we have a couple of motions. We are gonna have a surplus. And we were looking at, just throwing it into the capital fund. We also walk through, and you'll see it later on in here, the budget for the new building, for the new facility. Phil did a nice job of putting that together to show not only funding sources, but also kind of lay out the expenditures. And that was about it. What's in it? John, Bob, anything to add, or?
Notes are in.
Yep, the notes are in the packet. So. On to the governance committee, John, if you would, please.
Yeah, just briefly, we did meet back on March 13 and conducted interviews. The information is in the packet. We don't know activity has been taken since then.
Okay. On to financial reports from Phil, who's been doing a wonderful job, by the way. Thank you very much.
So I'll probably be a little more detailed than kind of I have been, just maybe for the benefit of the new, board members. But it's kind of good to kind of go through and kind of talk about what feeds into some of these line items, especially ones that are seeing significant variance, from budgets and things like that. So we're halfway through the year. Our fiscal year ends on September 30th. So this is for the first 6 months through March 31st. Our fare box collections are right around 259,000 in revenue. Historically, we'll collect more over the summertime than this. So even if I was to take a conservative estimate and double that number, we'll be about $136,000 more than our estimated budget that we adopted for fiscal year 23. Auxiliary transportation revenue. It's primarily advertising and then the commission we've received on Indian Trails. Because we process their tickets, we have an agreement with them to collect $2,700 a month from them. And then advertising revenue is through the roof right now, thanks to Wayne and everything he's doing, working on behalf of Antrim, Kalkaska, and Charlevoix counties. We had budgeted 99,000 for the year. We're already at 98,000 for the first 6 months. So we had some pretty big, new accounts this year and look forward. I think the summertime, there's some ads that, will come in the summer only during the kind of the peak season. So we'll see a little bit of a bump over the remaining 6 months as well. Non-transportation revenue. That's 6,500 of that is from the sale of 6 buses, which we don't have to share with MDOT. We just have to put it towards, transportation services. And then we also had an agreement with Grand Traverse County DPW to provide some CDL training for their employees that currently don't have a CDL, but we're going to train them so they're able to obtain their CDLs. Local service contract, that's primarily the community mental health agency service we provide. Let's see. And then also in the summertime, we provide extra services for the Cherry Festival. So we'll do an agreement with them to kind of compensate us for those costs of providing the late night and extra bus services for that festival. State operating is, we're currently 5311 rural with, and we received 34.58% of eligible expenses back from the state. And then on the federal side, our standard is 18% as a rural agency. And then for this year, through the end of September 30th, they had a bunch of extra federal money that, that give out to the other agencies. So we're getting another 18%, guess, cost match on operating expenses through the end of this year. And we just designated as ARPA, but they still have CARES and PRESA funds, and they kind of divvied it up between the different agencies. So on our final report, we'll recognize it as ARPA according to what they want. Interest year to date for the 6 months is at 180,000 across all of our reserve funds. We currently have $12 million sitting at Michigan class, which is generating about $47,000 a month right now. I just checked today, they're slightly over 5%. Returns, and not expected, but
Well, thank you for that recommendation, Phil. That was.
no, it's nice not having to have it locked up and let them kind of turn it all over daily.
Yep.
As part of the pool. I mean, that's one of the benefits of being in a pool. Because the other one, we have one outstanding right now for 2.8 million that's due in August, and that's locked in at 3.1%. So once though, that matures, we'll get about $88,000 of investment income on that T-bill, which is designated towards the capital fund, I believe. Or new facility. It's later in the report.
Yep.
But I'll move those funds over to Michigan class, and they'll be generating just as all of our other funds do. All of the accounts are set up. We did move everything over in March. That went really well, and I've done a couple of draws to cover payroll and payables as needed, and just been monitoring our cash balance, just to make sure we keep enough to cover operating at Independent Bank. But we still have our sweep at Independent Bank, which generates some interest as well. So just not as much as Michigan class. So by the end of the year, I'm, based on the timing with the facility and everything, we're going to use the grant funds first, before we have to tap into our capital, our new facility reserve fund for financing. So, by the end of the year, I'm projecting we'll be over $500,000 in interest and investment income. And we had budgeted 132,000 for the year. So pretty significant bump. Refunds and credits. These are basically offsets the eligible expenditures. So when I do the operating report quarterly for MDOT, we kind of have to back these out because MDOT's not going to really share in the expenses. These are kind of offsets. So the big ones in here, we had 77,000 for the propane alternative fuel credit for last year. We got 50 cents a gallon of on the propane that we use. So we submit, I think it's form 4136 or one of those forms with the IRS, and got that money back. So since, that's offsetting fuel costs, we're just basically going to reduce fuel expense that the federal and state will share in those expenses. We got $84,000 back on insurance claims, and then 16,000 from the prior year's workers' comp audit. So all three of those just kind of reduce expenses that are, recorded down below. Salaries and wages under the expense side. We are at 39% of budget. That's due to the reduced service levels. Paid leave. I'm gonna look into this, but we currently have been recording it as it's budgeted. And then it's just, pushed onto the balance sheet as, the accrued liability. As we get into UKG and the new payroll software, we're gonna have to rewrite all of our journal entries and reports. So I'm gonna do a little more investigation and making kind of a change in reporting paid leave of when it happens. And then I'll probably have to do different entries to adjust the accrual for what gets, loaded in the employees' banks and.
Didn't we make a change to have it go this way? Wasn't that a change that we instituted about a year and a half ago?
Yeah,
It's just odd to me.
it
I've never
is.
seen it done this way. I'm not saying it's wrong, but at the end of the year, you have to true up to your accrued PTO, at the end, so. We're making adjustments at 9:30 versus maybe throughout the year, so
Yeah,
it's just.
Okay.
I've never seen it done this way. But
I think it needs a deeper dive again.
Yeah,
Right, and I don't want to make a change where it might adversely impact something else, how we're recording, but to me, when we pay payroll, that's.
Yeah.
You're paying regular wages or you're paying, non-working
yeah,
wages.
I got it the last time. You might want to go back and just see, there's some
There may be
documentation
some
there,
notes.
why we did that at
Oh, yeah.
that time. I don't remember that.
It's been a few years. I mean,
That was
it
pretty
might have,
cool.
it definitely was with Nicole, but
Yeah.
it was probably like
I can pull some old
2000.
financial statements and kind of see
18
maybe when
something
the
like
change
that.
happened and.
Yeah,
Maybe find some notes on the
Yeah.
reason why, like, I wasn't there, so I don't know why, there could have been a reason, but. To me, we're just adjusting the balance sheet for the actuals versus the income statement and.
Yeah.
I prefer seeing the actual activity as things go up and down on your income statement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And then the balance sheet is just, like, if we had to pay everything out at once, what is that number?
right.
So, but we can look at that on statement in that position. Fringe benefits are very similar, running consistent with, labor at, I think 41% of budget through the 6 months. Services are at 48% for the year. A good portion of this amount is the IT services. We'll likely exceed the budget this year for that line item a little bit by the end, just because we're trying to advance some of the technology. And with the move to the new facility, and it's more of a timing issue of doing it this summer when we get the extra 18% federal, funding to help cover that one-time expense versus pushing it off after October 1st and under the new budget year. So, with all the extra revenue we're generating, above the line, to reduce expenses, in other line items, it only makes sense to kind of get these technologies in now as we move, move forward, because there's some GPS technologies that going to work hand in hand with some, fleet management software and of course, we already talked about the payroll upgrade that we kind of advanced this year. That they're working on to have a implementation before the end of this fiscal year. So, but we'll be really close. I mean, some of that will be prepaid, adjusted at the end of the year for any software as a subscription that we might have wrote the check for, but benefits future periods. So I don't know exactly where that number will shake out, but we'll be close, but potential to be a little bit over. Let's see what else. Oh, fuel. Fuel is way down from budget. We're currently, we're down 148,000 due to usage than planned. And then another 106,000 of the amount we're under budget is due to lower than anticipated fuel prices. When they did the budget, they figured full operating and then they kind of set where prices were, kind of a very, very conservative amount. And we're experiencing a lot less. And most of it's, propane and, I've started some new work papers. I'm gonna work with Kurt to kind of analyze and look at each vehicle now. I'm getting data from all of our fuel vendors and kind of monitor, what is it really costing us per mile for or, for each
box.
vehicle
Yeah.
and start kind of drawing down that level of the detail. Similar to what I would have to do for road commissions on reporting to the state, report at the vehicle level operating costs and
So we're
Indirect costs.
benefiting from your prior experience.
yeah, you just pick up these little things, through your career that could, benefit. And so it's kind of neat, I enjoy getting into the, particulars, and getting reports and seeing things in different light. So that's about where we're at on the income statement. I can kind of go through statement in that position next. See what I printed out. So, like I said, I had 267,000 in our independent general operating fund. That's where we write all of our checks out of and receive all of our deposits. We do have that 2.7 million T-bill out there that'll mature in August. I did previously mention that I did want to report Michigan class separate, so these are all balances that's reconciled to their statements. So the general fund is just our general cash, and then we also have the cash reserves set up, and I created some new reports after that balance back to these actual amounts. So we have 2.4 million in operating reserve to cover operating expenses. We had 2.2 million set aside for our capital outlay purchases. And then previously we had 2.7 set aside for the new facility reserve. And then previously that T-bill for the of 2.7 million that was designated into that fund as well. But I created a new report. You'll see how it shakes out. Due to state that negative 548,000, that's because when we submit our budget to the state, we say what our estimated operating expenses are going to be, and they basically take that amount, divide it by 12, and we get monthly payments for that same amount. Almost to the end of the year, they do hold some stuff back at the end of the year to kind of balance things out, but since our operating expenses are less, we've been receiving money from them more than what we really owe them. So that's really like a payable back to them. They did kind of mention, hey, you're running high. So I agreed to, reduce one of the months, to kind of offset it. So we weren't carrying such a big payable on the books. I mean, so basically we got $500,000 of their money right now that we're going to have to pay back at some point. And usually it's, at the end of the year, we'll do a reconciled. And
Are they gonna want related interest we're making now?
no, I was nice. The federal is a little different. I have to submit a operating report quarterly to MDOT, and at the 36% calculate the amount receivable. Then what they'll do is they'll send us a direct deposit for that. So I record it monthly because I track how much they owe us every month, and then I reconcile it quarterly. So we'll get that check from them. Probably after my report is due May 10th. So probably in a week or two of submitting that report is when we'll get that funding for the federal side. Prepaid expenses, that's mostly your insurances. New facility, land, we currently have 1.8, from the beginning, set of, actually spent towards our new building project. Accrued expenses, that's basically accrued wages, from timing of payrolls. And then the PTO balance, which is currently adjusted, not based on, it's partially actual payroll, but then also this entry that's recorded once a month, according to the budget amount. Net position, I have that broken down to our reserve funds, and the supporting detail, you'll be able to tie back both the cash and, you know, what's really available for those various funds. And I had some other notes, I mean, this kind of carry over from my predecessor. Next statement, operating reserve fund, we have a currently $2.4 million sitting in there, which represents about 20.5% of our operating budget. And the board had set a policy to have that not exceeding 30%. So we're comfortable at, you know, having a good amount of cash on hand to cover, you know, the day-to-day type of expenditures. The next one is our capital reserve fund. This is one where we're gonna be making a recommendation to use some of this, use the surplus from the prior year to put towards future capital. Since we're, you know, currently have the reserve operating kind of squared away, and we'll set these funds aside for kind of our longer term plan on you know, the technology plan and any kind of other future capital needs. So I broke these out now so I could track, you know, where they're at, whether the cash is at Independent Bank, Michigan Class, or sitting in a T-bill, but it ties right back to your assets on the balance sheet. The adjustments is basically activity for the year, income coming in, expenditures going out, any kind of transfers between the funds and or the general fund, and then to get us back to our reconciled reserve total amount, which is your assigned net position. So that fund, we currently have 2.2 million. I did the calculation for last year, and that I'm not sure where that's at on our. So that's down on line 14B. We'll do the surplus recommendation. But for last year, I calculated it would be $2.9 million, which will be added into this statement here, you know, kind of reserve for future capital. And then we have our new facility reserve fund. Again, we have the Michigan Class and T-bill. We've been spending some money out of that fund. Most of that funding has been tied up in T-bills and that, so we kind of borrowed from the general fund, I guess, if you will. So I need to probably do a transfer back to kind of true that all up. But we currently have 5.3 million available that the board previously set aside for the new facility. And that number, when we get into the construction costs and headquarters, you know, will be broken out there as well and ties back. And again, our current capital funds project, I know Kurt's got some other I think some furnace stuff coming through, so we're gonna be recording that in the month of April. I'm not sure, and I know he has some shelter type stuff that'll be coming through as well. But I know he's working on getting his projects in for this year.
So those motors are holding up, huh?
What's that?
It's like those motors are holding up on that 100K.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he's at. I haven't done a motor replacement since like 5 months. Damn.
Oh, yeah.
Keep not.
You guys have any questions? Sorry, I went a little long.
It's really great.
No, that's really, you're doing a really good job.
I tend to do that. Well, thank you.
So any more, do I have a motion to accept finance reports as presented? Do I have support? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Old business. Looks like we don't have any old business.
We don't.
New business, the new facility budget. Everybody They'll put this together and maybe if you have questions on it, you can direct them towards him, but basically the financial oversight teams kind of said, let's get this broken down so you can see the funding sources. Of course, a lot of this money, we haven't received it yet, and we won't until we start making draws on the project. Which we have, what, 30 days?
Well, when we get an invoice, we submit to MDOT. When we get the
MDOT.
funding from MDOT, we have 10 days.
To pay the
To pay
invoice. Yep, okay. So, and right now, it does appear as if we will actually have a little extra when we're all said and done with everything. So.
Bill, do you want to, yeah, why don't you
Yeah,
take us through that?
Yeah, so there's been work papers that we've used in the past. So basically, we start with the unrestricted net position from the audit report, which was 14,292,685. Then we back out of that number, all of the balances of the reserve funds that the board previously set aside. So we had the 5.3 million in the new facility, 2.3 million in operating, 1.9 million in the capital fund. The land acquisition fund is zero because we completed the purchase of the land, which left an unreserved balance of $4,726,664. And then we looked at the eligible expenses. And the cash management policy said to target 20% of like our eligible operating expense. So the eligible operating expense was $8,889,013. 20% of that is $1,777,803. So once we take the unreserved minus kind of what we want to hold back, that 20%, the excess is $2,948,861, and that's what we're recommending to put towards future capital projects.
Okay, so that was the overview for, back to the agenda. For the fiscal year 22 surplus recommendation.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
That's all right. Faster than the rest of us.
sorry.
We're on new, no, I can get a word. We go back to the new facility budget. No,
Bill, I love your enthusiasm.
no one loves numbers more than Phil. That's just how it should be.
All right, new facility. So we have a couple of grants from the state. One is an 80-20 with FTA, and then the state so that one totaled $16,725,000. The state also has 100% state funding of $6.6 million. I also reported funding amounts of the surpluses we previously designated, and then kind of tracking the investment and interest income that's being held in this fund. So currently we have $2,786,391 available for this new facility construction. I also kind of put in italics the sale of the Diamond Road and Cass Road facilities. We have appraisals. And what I did is I took 90% of that because there's probably going to be commissions and closing costs and things like that. And put that in there as net cash to us of approximately $2 million. So that gets us to about $30,811,000. Down below, I started to break out the construction stuff. So we had a contract with Progressive AE to do the design and kind of oversee the construction administration of the project. We previously had a $1.1 million contract with them. Just a few little adjustments to that. I think they were going to do some design on maybe the snow melt and things like that. So I'm currently have a budget amount set aside for them of $1,168,000. The Chrisman Company, we had a GMP amount of $26,537,000 with some change orders and that we're currently at $26,816,000 on that contract. And then there's also these owner direct costs. that we'll have a little more detail for, that Jerry was able to kind of help, get that, but those were costs that's running outside of the christening contract. You know, we need furniture and, you know, putting in, you know, truck wash and moving propane tanks and some of those things that aren't really the building and land improvement type of activity. And then they also, I think at the very start, they recommend having I think 5% or 3% maybe contingency kind of set aside.
Yeah.
So we kind of built that into our, you know, overall number just for unforeseen circumstances, not designated anywhere, but that gets us to 30,471,000. So currently with the funding, you know, to me, the almost kind of hopefully worst case scenario type of cost, we still would have a surplus of $340,000.
Thanks, Phil.
And then, and down in yellow, I was tracking the actual cost as well as we move along this project. Like Progressive AE, we've currently spent $924,000 of that contract. The actual federal and state, that's what we've submitted to MDOT against those grants. So I'll be able to track the balance of those grants as well. And then we did have a little bit come out of the new facility reserve because we're doing some design work before we had approval of the contract. So we kind of was pulling that out of the new reserve or new facility reserve funds at that time. And then we started submitting reimbursements to MDOT. So
Mhm.
we're going to use up all of the MDOT's grant money. So it's just kind of timing on everything.
Yeah. Bill, if I could just interject and invite Jerry to speak to the kind of particulars of the costs and have a seat, Jerry.
All right,
End of the table there. You can take us through the owner direct budget and.
certainly,
Christmas GMP.
I can't do as well of a job as Phil did.
No.
I'll certainly try. So we worked, obviously Kelly, Phil and I and Eric and Kurt put our heads together over the last month, really digging deep into what I'll call the owner cost associated with the project. So there's 2 pages in your report. One shows the construction budget, which is Chrisman's contract amount. And then at the bottom, I included what would potentially be some future change orders. I think I mentioned at the January meeting, we were looking to adjust the grades and take out some of what the fill would have been to save some money on the project. It doesn't affect any of our ultimate grades that would be concerning for slopes or potentials for risk, bringing a bus or a van into the site. Nothing related there. It's just, it made sense to all of us that why spend, $600,000-700,000 in fill if you can adjust the grades and save half that cost. So we took advantage of that. We paid Mansfield to do some redesign of some of the engineering and the grades, made sure that we had proper coverage for the water. We had the proper drainage for the sewage and the storm. We don't want to find ourselves with a bad condition associated with the project. So in the end, we were able to take about 391,000 out of the Team Elmer's contract, which would be treated as a change order to them. Right now, their contract has that 391 in it, but it's going to come out because we adjusted the grades. We'll then also include in this, down at the bottom of that sheet, some new bus wash equipment. Kurt's been dealing with a couple of different manufacturers and concluded that it would be roughly around 360,000 if you included the fee for Crispin on that. And then we'll assign to them also the installation of propane tank, containment, bollards around it, things of that such.
And we would own that tank.
You would,
We currently don't own the tank, so we
yep.
contracted for own gas, but once we own it, we'll be able to get bids on from different vendors.
So we'd look at roughly a $309,000 ad. So ultimately, if you add the deduct, or you take the ads plus the deduct, you're at about 26.8 million. That number includes in construction cost a few items. We made sure that we kept the snow melt allowance at 550,000. That's line item under the work category 27A. We don't have a number on that yet. So Christmas going to go out to bid. We expanded that transfer station a little larger to accommodate mechanical equipment for the snow melt. So we'll have numbers back. It's a fair estimate. It would include obviously putting a little more concrete in lieu of asphalt if we're putting snow melt in certain areas. So we'll expect those numbers to report within the next month. We also included some additional landscape allowance. You'll notice we're category 8. They do already have a contract for the landscaping, but we want to set aside some additional funding to put maybe some foundation plantings around the building and things of that such. Now it's an allowance amount. It's just a budget. It's earmarked there. If we don't use it, then it gets deducted at the end off the budget. But it's at least an earmarked line item for consideration. And then Chrisman also has, as Phil mentioned, they've got a contingency amount, a construction contingency. Theirs is at $718,000. So they have language in their contract, and it's normal with a CM or a GC, unless for some reason it was excluded, which I don't believe it is, that they have the discretion to use that construction contingency amount for unforeseens. Let's say they missed something in the bid documents or something just came up. Maybe we had some bad soils. That amount could be used for that. And we'll track that with them. We'll make sure that, that we know, but they have the discretion to use that. So it's there in their budget and we'll track it. Then it takes it down to that 26.8 million. And then the next sheet, you'll see it's called total project cost. This is where we just compiled all the things that Chrisman wouldn't do as part of the project that we need to make sure it's done. Obviously, Phil mentioned a few things about the architectural fees. We had some additional civil and landscape design fees and reimbursements that we foresee with Mansfield. We'll have some consulting fees for some IT related items that Shoreline's going to help us with. We have the fee that Cunningham Limp would receive throughout the project, and that's a percentage of the work completed. So it's not like we're taking it, dividing it by 14 months of duration. It's just based on percentage of completed during the process. I included the tap fees. That's what we have to pay to the township for the sewer and water. Now, it seems rather ironic, we're extending the sewer and water, and yet we also have to pay them the REUs. When that's typical, it's because, again, that's used for operating that public sewer and water once it's done. Now, we'll get reimbursed for some of those fees from Traverse City Housing and any other developments that will be tying into that. So the residential or the church, those are what they call lateral fees with the township. So we're going to work out the agreement with them on what would be reimbursable. But right now, we just said at this point, to show the REUs, we already have with Team Elmers the actual work that they're going to do, which is the sewer and water extensions.
Garfield Township has a number already, that pretty much has to do it.
Not that I'm aware of, Brad, but if they do, I'm going to find out because we have to get them to sign off on the agreement along with that unit of
I'm
measure.
pretty sure they do, that's
Good.
what they've always done it. I mean, if
So-
a developer runs a line and pays for it, whoever ties into it in the future, there's a set amount already.
Yeah, I did ask from Jennifer at Gordy Fraser, their engineering company, to provide us with some samples of lateral agreements that they have or contract agreements. She produced 2 of them. One of them did show a unit cost, but it was back in 2015. So again, it will be calculated, and you got to remember too, because the housing component will have a larger percentage of cost for that extension of that sewer and water, because their REUs are higher than what yours are. Yours is like 16% of the total. Theirs is 84% of the total. The estimated sewer and water is a little over $1 million. We had to break out some team members on that. So you're going to get some reimbursements from TC Housing. You'll get some lateral fees. A larger percentage of that would go to the Traverse City Housing. But yes, we will work that out.
Yeah, I'd be interested in how many projects I've ever seen go through Garfield. Garfield already had a set number.
Okay.
And stuff. And yeah, I don't know, do you know anything on it about it? They got a schedule. That's why, yeah.
Okay, so I'll get it with them and make sure. They haven't seen our proposed contract agreement yet. So we'll have some moving costs, a little bit of AV, some security. We've talked with Shoreline. I know Eric, you've talked, or Kurt's talked with another company. Eventually, we're going to go out to bid for all of the IT related security access cameras, card readers, any other information that would be needed. And then we have some furniture, fixtures and equipment. And there's no cost for the extension of the electrical. That's with TCLP. That was part of the agreement we worked out. We have some window treatments, blinds. Some minor site and building surveying cost. You eventually want to put some interior and exterior signage up. And then I carried construction materials testing. That's an independent third-party testing agency that would come out there and make sure that the soils are holding the bearing capacity, the concrete is being installed according to the engineering, steel welds, anchor bolts, anything that's required in the specification for a third party. It's just a good way for all of us to make sure that someone else is looking at this work, not just me, not just Chrisman, but everybody else knows, because these guys are in the business of inspecting this on a daily basis. And then we're going to commission all the mechanical, electrical equipment with a third party. So that way we make sure that it's balanced, mechanical systems are balanced, the electrical, we don't want to improperly fire a unit up and not have it already tested before then and find out that we damaged a piece. And then we have with Gordy Frazier, the inspection fees included, which is around 56,000. They gave us those numbers back in 2021. We wanted to make sure that those were picked up as part of the under cost. And then some miscellaneous permit. So all in, including an owner contingency, I set aside an amount of 800,000. It's just shy of 3%. I figured you're going to need something in the event you need to use it. It's there. If it's not used, again, it's not used. So I left that there for our use. So we're at 30,471,000. And that again does not include reimbursement from Traverse City Housing for that sewer and water extension. So you're going to see a lesser amount in the future.
Some of that could come out 10 years from now too, so.
On the lateral fees, some of it will, yeah. And again, when they put their actual housing in. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Where are we in the period? So the pricing, before
They're locked
there's
in.
a lot of concern for locked
Yep,
in.
they're locked in, and we've thought that quite a bit out, and I think I mentioned in a previous meeting, we wanted to get the long lead items. The mechanical units right now are the major issue with Johnny Green, but they have worked on it, and they have reported back that they're going to be able to schedule the installation when we need it. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, based upon that, we have the new facilities budget presented. Do I have a motion to approve that? Yeah, no, we already did the financial reports, didn't we? Yeah. So we're to a motion to approve the total project cost as presented. Do I have a motion? Do I have support? Support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Regarding Phil got all excited and jumped right into the,
Yeah.
thanks.
Started at 14 million, yada, yada, yada. We're down to $2,948,861 excess service. We're recommending to moving to the capital.
I don't see that in the packet, the sheet that I think you were reading.
Yeah, I don't know if it made it into the packet.
Okay,
I thought she.
If anybody wants to- okay. If anybody wants to see the supporting documentation for the 2.9 surplus, $2.9 million surplus recommendation, it can get passed around.
So we're gonna hold a second on
I
that,
have
see
a
if,
version there if you want.
coming around.
Oh, sorry.
I see that, my voice going.
And all those numbers come back to the audit report. That we
Yes.
presented.
Okay, based on that, do I have a motion to allocate the 2.9 million plus to the Beta's capital fund? Do I have support? I have support. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. The next motion, we have to modify it a little bit. What actually ended up in there was the savings, if you actually look at
Just the recommended motion language.
yeah, oh, yeah, that's all. So the recommended motion language needs to basically. The Beta Board of Directors moves to approve the IT contract with Next IT for up to 3 years. For the amount of year one, 42,600. 39,000 thereafter.
For a year there.
For each year thereafter. And this is an overall savings for us.
Can I
Sure.
tee it up just a little bit? Is that okay? So currently Beta contracts with i3 Business Solutions as our third party IT vendor out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We've been with them for a long time. Lately, they've been raising their costs. Also, we've become fully staffed on our IT side internally with staffing here at Beta. And anytime we need physical on-site support, a lot of things can be done remotely for networking and technology. But anytime we need on-site support from them, they've got to send somebody up from Grand Rapids to do on-site networking support for Beta. So we've, over the last couple months, started to look at switching to a local provider to have somebody nearby and to look for increased service and at a more affordable rate. And so we did our due diligence and we looked at a number of IT vendors, including the one that we currently have. We narrowed it down to 3 that we took a deeper dive in, Next IT, Safety Net, and of course i3, our current provider. And it kind of, after looking at all the comparing side by side, and the full report is in your packet of all the features and benefits and things like that, Next IT rose to the top. And also it includes a significant amount of savings than what we're currently paying with our current vendor. So that is our recommendation, is to work on a transition plan to switch from i3 currently to Next IT as our third-party IT provider. Yeah.
Thank you.
What is Next IT's experience or history with working with this type of technology?
So as far as all of our networking and things like that, they have a lot of experience. They support the type of firewalls that we currently have, our backup solutions, all that kind of stuff. They check all the boxes and even go a little bit farther than our current provider does. They don't have specific transit experience. Not really a lot of IT providers have transit specific, but with Beta moving a lot of our technologies to cloud-based now with our new solutions, as long as we have a good network, good servers and an internet connection, that's what it boils down to. Yeah.
So, any other questions? So do I have a motion to approve the IT contract with Next IT for up to 3 years for the amount of 42,600 and 39,000 thereafter? That's, I have support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. MPO participation resolution.
Yeah, so
Right.
happy to answer any questions if there are any regarding this, but you had Report from Networks Northwest on the process of implementing an MPO at the last board meeting. Also in the packet was the Federal Transit Administration's letter to us, which described that transition process and that we would be required to participate in the MPO. So this is a resolution that approves the participation in the MPO. It's not the last resolution that this board will see. It's more of a housekeeping resolution than the interlocal agreement that will support the MPO and the different agencies that comprise the MPO, and that would be coming next. And I expect that we'll see that sometime probably over the summer.
And why it's not the last resolution, we'll see because of the fact that process we're on right now. With the big thing that we're gonna see is the participating entities that will continue to change with the agreement.
As the interlocal agreement is
Yes.
established,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
But that's why this resolution, we might see it half dozen times before.
Well, this resolution, I don't think will have to change as much as this is the one that MDOT requires. Just to acknowledge the participation in it, but ultimately the interlocal agreement has to be established with the participating agencies, right?
Rob was saying at our meeting last week there, anytime these entities change
Mhm.
down here where it says now they're be resolved. Then we have to approve again because we're adding.
For MDOT,
I don't know what MDOT, but I'm saying what's gonna come in front of us, then we have to redo. I don't know what MDOT's gonna require for sure.
okay,
And stuff, but that's what Rob explained last time,
okay,
and that's why I got pulled off our agenda before was because. Some of them were not happy that all the entities were currently listed, but they didn't understand that that will continue to change until we get to the end of it, so.
okay.
Oh, MDOT might,
Yeah, my understanding was that this particular resolution is just a requirement of MDOT's acknowledgement of the agencies acknowledging the MPO creation.
that might be, I don't know.
I think the big one is the interlocal agreement. So, okay.
Well, it's coming as fast and
It
furious.
really is. It's,
Yeah.
it's been 10 years waiting, we'll rush through it in 4 months.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months.
So,
Well, the importance of fast tracking is those two, I'm getting into the next fiscal year budget.
right,
So.
right.
So do I have a motion to approve the MPO participation resolution as presented?
So moved.
Do I have support? This is gonna be a roll call vote, right? Not,
It doesn't need to be.
Doesn't need to be.
because it's like right in the agreement. I think it's saying,
Well, I think we can put in there that all of the people that say.
well, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure that
We can do roll call if I do.
we didn't overlook it.
I don't think it has to be.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have the fiscal year success plan scorecard for Q1 and Q2.
Okay, so. Just always like to. Remind everybody what this is, especially with new board members. So for several years now, BATA has had a success plan which identifies these pillars of success. So safety, financial success, customer experience, employee success, and performance-based culture. And within those pillars, different metrics have been identified as indications of success within those pillars. This is the organization level scorecard. Each of the departments have their own scorecard. So there's a scorecard for our fixed route service, for our demand response service, for our communications and development department, for our administrative services department. and our fleet and facilities. At the board level, we review the organization level scorecard on a quarterly basis. So here we're reporting Q1 and Q2 results. And I don't know if I necessarily need to go through every outcome, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have on the different metrics or the performance. One thing I'll just point out that, sometimes when we are not reporting absolute numbers, it's because of fluctuations and part of the formula. So for example, on our preventable reportable collisions per 100,000 miles, our mileage varies. And has been, as we all know, service levels have been reduced over the last year and a half. And so we've been running less miles. Our goal, our performance goal was set at 0.2 per 100,000 miles when we were running full service levels. Our performance of 0.5 in Q1 and 0.7 in Q2 in absolute numbers was 2 accidents in Q1 and 3 accidents in Q2. And they're reportable based on the definition as dictated by MDOT. So you can see that they're pretty lofty goals. I mean, we have a lot of service on the road, and we've done quite well on each of these metrics. So I'm not looking for action on the scorecard. I'm just presenting it to all of you so that you have the data.
Any questions?
So can you go back to that for a second?
Mhm.
So I understand 100,000, right? So you have still a ratio between the 2 accidents and the number of miles that you drove, and the 3 accidents, the number of miles that you drove. So if you're a 4.0 versus a score of 10 potential, that means you're underperforming, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Considerably. I mean, that's 3 accidents is a lot,
right,
especially with your mileage being down.
right, which is why the points reflect
Yeah.
2.9 out of 10.
2.9 out of 10.
Well, I'm there.
Yeah.
So what I guess if we're gonna have this document, is there corrective action in place to resolve that?
So
deficiency?
the accidents, so yes, and I don't have the detail of the accidents with me today, but I'm happy to share that with you or have the manager come and report on the corrective action. We do look at if there is any trend in accident type, for example. So for a while, we were having a significant number of backing accidents. And so we looked at, what do we need to do to improve
Yeah,
these?
that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
absolutely.
looking-
Yeah,
I don't want all the detail,
right.
but I mean, obviously something caused, unless these were all 3 totally different, non-connected types of accidents, but still 3 is a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. One of them was the rollover. I know that for certain. Which was a driver driving too fast for conditions and icy conditions. I don't know if anybody else on the team has the exact detail on what the other accidents are, but I don't think there's a trend in these numbers. I know that from time to time there is a trend. Sometimes it's side swipes, spatial awareness. And what follows is training, additional training, either for the individual, if the trend is with the individual, or staff wide. If it's
Just as a reminder, we put safety number 1 on this chart for a reason.
absolutely,
Number 1.
absolutely.
My daughter was in an accident on a Beta bus. They hit a deer. And the driver reacted very calmly, very professionally. And I couldn't. School bus full of kids.
I don't know. If
I believe these other accidents were minor, but like, for example, one accident that we seem to have often is, yeah. I hate to say that, but it's true, leaving the mall. So the mall does not stripe their exit lanes and it's cramped in there and you're moving at it like an S curve and we have a lot of side swiping accidents in that mall exit area. To the point that we're looking at, how do we stay out of the mall? Because,
Yeah,
it's tough getting in and out of there between their potholes and their issues at their intersection. It's just not a place that you want to service. So, so we do look at it in detail.
A deer, I don't think a
Definitely.
deer is considered.
No, it's not
preventable,
considered preventable.
but
No.
mean,
I know what you mean, but
No, I just, because it was interesting to me how the driver reacted and exactly what they did, moving over and, making sure all the kids were okay.
That's
It
good.
it was great.
Yeah.
We also, every month, we meet with the safety committee that is comprises about 9 different members from dispatch to facilities to driving. And we review all the accidents from the previous month. We also review all the employee passenger injuries from the previous month. And then we review them and look at what can we do to prevent them in the future. So, and that's dating back when we had a rash of slips and falls up to like 72,000 one about 6 years ago. And we bought yak tracks for all of our employees. We've had 1 slip and fall since then. So then we take, what's the next thing that we have and look to see. What I like right now about the committee is they're looking at not just the reactive to the accidents, but preventive in the future. So they see right now, we've got some big potholes at the mall. We got some potholes up at one of the trailer parks. And so Eric and our other Eric, they get with the management of those organizations to see if they can't get those filled as soon as possible. For example, they might not necessarily be an accident, but they could result in damage to one of our vehicles. So anyway, this committee has been amazing to be really like proactive in coming to us with, I could just go a whole list of things and we have minutes of all those meetings and, we still do our reactive to the accidents when they happen and we show them and our drivers are amazing. We're like, go put my picture up there and show what I did. I took that curve too fast, I could have prevented that or I came. We had hitting the bollards back here and we brought the committee to Hall Street and put markers in place and the facilities guys painted markers. So this is where you stop your bus. So no longer you can hit that bollard. And we haven't, I think, 1 in the last 4 years now. So they do all get followed up on.
Yeah.
good. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
yes. Are there comments, questions? If not, board discussion items?
We didn't, it's on this agenda.
Nope. Second public comment. Okay, open floor, directors, comments, announcements, anything?
I have a little bit. Thanks for the invite and groundbreaking. I can't make it. We have a family wedding, so I'll be away. And then I am probably gonna have cataract surgery in June. I don't know when that's gonna be. I have to wait. Both sides have to be done, 2 weeks in between, so it's gonna be sort of a lot. I just wanted to make you aware that. I might not see you though. They tell me everything's gonna be out of balance.
It's actually,
Yeah.
I had cataract surgery on my left eye. And it was kind of interesting, 'cause what she did, because I was nearsighted, she corrected it for distance. And all of a sudden, I didn't have to wear glasses. Because this one, just that I'd run into stuff on this side if it was. But I mean, once your brain adjusts to it, it's like really, it's been great.
Good.
And what, 7 years without glasses? So,
Good success story.
yes, and it's not that bad. It's like I gotta wear the big protective thing for a couple of days. And
You can get your peg leg to go with it.
Yeah.
I had showed up at the pirate festival.
I was gonna say, arr. That'll be your favorite letter, arr. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
There we go.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thank you.
I do.
I know.
John said he'd show